Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back for another video. Today, we're going to be doing Conspiracy Theory Iceberg Tier 4, which means we will be talking about 4 topics today. I really don't got anything else to say, so let's just jump into it. The Trilateral Commission is an organization founded by none other than David Rockefeller in 1973. It was designed to foster and grow interdependence between the U.S. and its allies, such as Canada and Japan, and maybe like a few other offshoots, but we don't mention them because it's the word tri, and then that's just 3, so U.S., Canada, Japan, and the goal was to incite greater cooperation between the nations and also to figure out a way to where they can create and foster a prosperous place for capitalism and globalization. There are 3 regional headquarters, one in Washington, D.C., one in Paris, and one in Tokyo. These regional places are basically assisted and kind of upheld by what they call deputies and an executive council. The entire membership meets every single year, and throughout the year there are smaller regional meetings through the different various locations I mentioned. The principles that they determine who can be a part of this commission, or I guess membership club, whatever you want to call it, is mostly weighted in either economic or political backgrounds. So if you are some type of financier, or if you're somewhere in an economic industry, there's a high likelihood you could be tapped on your shoulder to be a part of these reindeer games. Same as the political background, but I mean, come on, like this, like, I don't know. It's like peanut butter and jelly, to be honest with you. So, of course, they use these powerful political and enterprise level environments, such as in their own companies or things that they already have established, and kind of just see how they can make the pieces fit together to, make their dreams and wishes come true. And I don't know, man. It's like just going over this theory alone. First of all, I don't know why it's called a theory. I mean, it's a real thing. But second of all, it's like, I mean, they're coming out and telling you, like, yeah, we have powerful political and, economic people, and they get together and they kind of do their own thing and literally build the sandbox they're playing in, and we're all kind of just watching them do it. But anyways, there's more to be had here. In total, there are about 400 members part of the Trilateral Commission. And although I did say it's heavily weighted, of course, in economic and in political figures, there are still other people that play around as well, such as people who are specializer in the industry of the media, banking, and other type of areas as well. And also it is invite only, so there is really no application you can fill out. There's nothing you can do. They either want you to be a part of the cool kids club or they don't. And furthermore, I thought it was kind of interesting. So if you watch Tier 1, I did it over the Bilderberg group, and this is basically deja vu at this point. If you've watched that video and you're hearing what I'm saying now, I'm almost saying nothing different. Like, nothing so far. In 2001, the Trilateral Commission began to branch out into other regions as well. And these regions are Mexico, Indonesia, Singapore, South Korea, China, and actually quite a few more. So they blowing up. At its core, the Trilateral Commission is technically considered somewhat of a think tank. And a think tank, in layman's term, is like an institution or institute or whatever. And what they do is different research papers, and most of the time it's over social issues or just the way that things are going as far as humanity. And they just kind of post papers such as like trends, like this is the way we're heading in this direction, or this is what the cause and effect is of this for people and whatnot. And you can kind of look up how people have opinions over think tanks. Some people consider think tanks almost as a place where people do research, but it's skewed research simply to push an agenda of what these people want. But that's a topic for a whole other video. You just need to know that it's kind of considered a think tank. So really quickly, I wanted to touch on just a few notable members that were a part of the Trilateral Commission. Now, understand that when it comes to it, there's actually plenty more. Like I said earlier, it's about 400 members at any given time, so I'm just literally just giving you kind of a handful of a few. Some of these people are Jimmy Carter, Bill Clinton, this guy who was a billionaire and is done things. And then, of course, we have John Deutsch, who was also head of the CIA at one point. So now that we kind of have a little bit of an overview about what it is, even though I still feel like I said a whole bunch about nothing, because like I said, these guys get in these rooms and these meetings and they talk and they do all this planning and stuff, but for the general public, we really aren't included too much in the messaging, and that's why groups or think tanks or whatever end up on lists like this, because you have the most powerful people in the world who, I mean, it's serious enough. Think about them breaking their very busy schedules all to meet together for like, I don't know, a few days to like a week or something, but you don't get any information about it at all. Why? Why is that information so sensitive? So whenever it gets to it, that's why these kind of things end up on the list. I mean, if you're going to have a secret group, you're going to end up on a conspiracy theory list. That's kind of how that goes. So the group has been accused of being a synarchy, aka a harmonious rule, aka elite cabal. That's all you need to know. Like the one government thing, it goes by many names at this point, but it was accused of being that so much that in 2007, I believe his name was Luke. I may be wrong. He went up to one of the founders, not David Rockefeller, but another guy who's like a early on kind of person in the whole thing. And he accused them of, this is going to get crazy in a second. He accused them of basically conspiring or creating 9/11 as a whole, saying that they created 9/11 and it was just one of many steps to lead to a new world order / one world government kind of thing. So what really makes this theory kind of grandiose is it's considered to be a hijacking, actually. So I guess whenever we think of certain things like the Trilateral Commission, or we think of like the Bilderberg Group, we think of it as almost like, you know, a separate entity within itself, right? Like this is what the evil cabal or evil elite is in a way. And in a way it kind of is, but according to some people's beliefs, they believe that the executive branch of the United States government was hijacked, I think in like the 70s, late 70s, maybe early 80s. And most of the people that are in the Trilateral Commission ended up infiltrating the United States government, and they slowly branched their way into it, almost like, I don't know, a virus or something. It's kind of crazy. So earlier I mentioned that someone was accused of starting or hijacking the United States, and 9/11 was a domino effect to initiate it. Well, I didn't say the guy's name because honestly, I kind of can't pronounce it. So this guy's name, here he is. So this guy, and I'm just going to refer to him as this guy, so just remember that. He is also one of the founders with David Rockefeller. Well, they find it interesting that, strangely enough, whenever the Trilateral Commission started, it started about 2, maybe 3 years, I think, before Jimmy Carter was elected president of the United States. Well, according to them, this guy specifically told Jimmy Carter to run for the United States, and then Jimmy Carter wins presidency. Well, only a couple of years after Jimmy Carter was president, and it's while he was still in office, so like maybe 2-3 years into Jimmy Carter's presidency, I think. Did he serve the full term? I can't remember. Anyways, while he was in office though, next thing we know, this guy all of a sudden gets appointed to be National Security Advisor within the United States government. And right after that, Jimmy Carter appointed almost 1/3 of the entire Trilateral Commission to be various cabinet and officers within the United States government administration. The United States Trade Representatives is about 12 positions. Out of those 12 positions, at one point, a total of 9 of those members, so only 3 weren't a part of the Trilateral Commission. The reason why this is so important and why this position is so important is because they are considered to be the people that basically negotiate trade between other countries, oftentimes being the lead negotiator for the United States in general in multiple different types of scenarios. So going back all the way to the late 60s, 1968 to be exact, 6 out of 8 of the World Bank presidents have all been a part of the Trilateral Commission. So much that these positions and numbers I was kind of telling you about, like the people who weren't part of it, so like maybe the 2 out of the 8 that weren't a part of the World Bank presidents, 2 of those people that weren't there, even though they weren't part of the Trilateral Commission, what they ended up doing is researching and finding out that they were heavily associating with someone that was a part of the Trilateral Commission. So it's almost like, even though I can't get in there, you can have that position, but at the same time, you still need to do some stuff for us. So it's, I don't know, it's kind of wonky. Now, at the end of the day, I think all of this stuff is interesting, but I still like to tell you guys, still be in the middle. Definitely question things, but don't go too far off. Don't jump in the deep end, okay? So, but I mean, it's still compelling. Like 9 out of the 12 positions, and I think, just like I said before, even though the 3 people that weren't a part of the Trilateral Commission, they were like either like married or related or heavily associated with someone that was a part of the Trilateral Commission. So getting back to this guy again, well, he's a very important and integral person to this story. So what we're going to do for a quick second is, even though we're still talking about the Trilateral Commission, you have to understand that, like I said before, there's many moving pieces to something this grandiose, right? You're dealing with multiple nations, multiple regions, and you're dealing with multiple governments, you're dealing with multiple economies. It's so much going on. So you have to ask, at the end of the day, what is it all for, and what are their other ulterior motives? I mean, they got all these people in these positions of power, but what is it leading to, and how in the world did 9/11 possibly get roped into this? Because other than that, it sounds pretty cuckoo caca. So this guy spoke about a new, different type of government, something that to me personally sounds or aligns a lot with what people say, such as Big Brother, such as the all-seeing eye, whatever you want to call it type of thing. But the government itself was something called technocracy. So remember that term? And we're going to lightly touch on it now, but it's something that I am saving for its whole shebang of a whole video because it's a lot. And it's weird. So although I know we talked about, the elite cabal and whatnot, when we speak about technocracy, this guy literally, you can go find the quote. He said straight up that he is imagining a world where the government itself is free from all of social stigmas and whatnot in the past, and the government is an elite group of people who can use different methods that otherwise are considered unorthodox to the general public or past traditions. This guy went on to say that it would be a society that would be controlled by the elites, and it would be a very technotronic society, So much that it could have high surveillance and you could know anything about a person's life at any given moment. And all you had to do was reach out to the local authorities or whatever type of authorities and retrieve these files of any given person's life. Also, like I mentioned earlier about the Trilateral Commission being a think tank, and these think tanks do, different things to where they make their own reports and they kind of issue out their own papers, researches, and different things to kind of control society a little bit. I thought it would be a good mention that they coined the term third world countries. There was really no place to put that in here, but I thought you should know that. And another thing is, when I mention things like the think tank and how they put out papers, and some of these papers are used to push agendas, well, there was a guy named Noam Chomsky, right? And he criticized the Trilateral Commission because they put out a paper, and I don't remember the name of it, sorry, but they put out a paper, and the paper basically criticized democracy, saying that they feel as though people have too much of a voice. However you feel about that. The Vimana is a mythical flying vehicle, and it originates from the Rig Veda, which is the oldest text in Indian history, originating all the way back about 2,000 years BC. It is said that the sun god, most likely Surya, travels in a flying vehicle, aka the sun. However, there are various depictions of Vimana, and it can range in both shapes, sizes, applications, I guess, or apparatus, if you will. Some people say that they see it as simple as someone appearing to be in like a sphere. Some people say they see it as someone riding a chariot and like literally, I don't know, I guess animals on it or something kind of weird. Some people even say they've seen floating palaces all the way upwards to even 7 stories high. The weird part is there's also an excerpt in the Ramayana, which is a poem. And within this poem, it says that there were battles in the sky amongst, the sky gods in their flying chariots at one point sometime in the past. And of course, people wondered, what you on? Like, what you talking about? Flying gods in the sky? And what? What's all that about? So it's led some people to believe that this may be one of the first records that we have of the cultures in India speaking of, or potentially speaking of, UFOs. And some of them are going on to even say that they witnessed them battle it out in the sky, which is also, you don't really hear that every day. So now, personally, I love a good UFO story. Conspiracy Theory Iceberg is amazing because it's just so fun and interesting with all of the various possibilities, right? I love this stuff. However, I do also love grounding myself. And like I said a second ago, I think you should be in the middle on this. So I decided to present to you an optical illusion. So there are various types of optical illusions or mirages. One is called Fata Morgana. Fata Morgana is triggered by temperature inversion. So it's this weird phenomena whenever the warm and cold air begins to separate, usually right above the surface of something, whether it be water or whether it be something like, not water, ground. I don't know where I was going with that. But it happens whenever the warm and the cold air begins to separate. Now, what ends up happening is some of the air turns almost into a refracting lens, and it creates this weird inverted double image, and it causes some things to look as though they are floating, but they're not. They're just there, and your eyes are playing tricks on you. These type of mirages are mostly spotted either in places with high mountains, Arctic seas, or even sometimes near the Antarctica. But let me know, what do you think? Do you think these people were just tripping? Or do you think that maybe they did see some flying palaces or structures or chariots or, UFOs, technically, they're UFOs. They're unidentifiable and they're in the sky. So what do you think? What do you think they saw? Guys, I just want to let you know I did it. I was able, or at least I think I was able, to find what Nexus 7 is actually referring to. So, buckle up. So I'm going to be honest with you. I really want to read this part so I can get this right for you, because it's kind of a lot of words. So I'm going to just read this first little chunk so you can get the gist of Nexus 7. So, the Nexus 7 program applies forecasting, data extraction, and analysis methodologies to develop tools, techniques, and frameworks for the automated interpretation, quantitative analysis, and visualization of social networks. Sheesh, that's a lot, isn't it? The program was a joint effort by the CIA, NSA, GPS satellites, cell phone records, battlefield reports, digital financial trends, CCTV, social media, and more. Basically, they collected such a mass amount of data on people that they were like, yo, dog, what you gonna do with all that? So if you guys have not watched the previous video on this channel titled Life Log, go watch it, please. It's kind of cool. People liked it. Got a lot of thumbs up on it. Thank you for that. Please thumbs this one up, help your boy out. That would be exquisite. But if you've watched that Life Log video, this too probably sounds like a lot of deja vu, right? Everything I just said is very similar to the Life Log project. The only real difference is, of course, like I said last time. So, the difference is with LifeLog, according to them, they must gain your consent before they're able to pull all of this data off of you. Oh my God, another deja vu. Didn't I just mention this in Technocracy? That's weird how this keeps coming up. Interesting. So, anyways, with Nexus 7, apparently it was a very similar program, but this one was supposed to be more or less targeted towards terrorism, and specifically, they were trying to test this out in Afghanistan. This one got a little bit more in depth, though. So, there was all those things that I just named, such as like using social media and just other different various forecasts and AI to try to track or gather intelligence on a person. But for some reason, they wanted to use this. And it was also, by the way, created by DARPA, but it was a joint effort by the other organizations like the CIA and NSA too. But for some weird reason, whenever you look up the description for this, they note that it was rushed to Afghanistan. Don't know why, but they rushed this project to Afghanistan to take place. And also another crazy thing that I thought was it got so deep with the type of data that they were trying to collect that they were even like evaluating prices of fruit in a given place. I don't know how that predicts terrorism, but... And I apologize right now. I'm going to look down and I'm going to read again, but I also thought this excerpt was kind of weird, so I just wanted to make sure I got it right for you. So here we go. David Kilcullen mentioned that people leave behind digital traces, and if you gather them correctly, you could track when people feel scared, where babies are dying, and where incomes are dropping. As you can see, there's a lot in this particular iceberg level that pretty much leaves me speechless and baffled. Just because, you think you know somebody weird, right? But then you start hearing things like, oh, we can track where babies are dying. And it's like, what? What's going on here? And then it's like, we could track where people are scared. Like, they're tracking fear. Does that not freak you out that they have data to track fear itself? So this is actually where it gets weird. I know, right? After everything I said, this is where it gets weird. So there were a few people that were interviewed that were a part of the Nexus 7 project. And some of these people were in various, expertise. So I think some of them were actual software engineers and possibly programmers or coders. And when they were putting it together, they heavily criticized the project to the point that some of these people got so fed up with the Nexus 7 project that they just abandoned and quit the project. The reason why is because they said they weren't really doing much. And they couldn't understand why there was so much money that was poured into this project, but it still performed so terribly. The reason why they were so frustrated is because they said they were a part of this project, but they felt like they barely did anything, to the point that one of them even said that this is like a glorified high school level coding project. He said that it was really nothing more than about 200 lines of code in Python. And I'll be honest, I actually took up a coding boot camp last year. I'm still not really that good at it, but I can safely tell you that even me, a person with the training wheels on, the helmet on, and everything, trying to do coding, and I was specifically working on Python. Now, I was making a front end and a back end of a website, which is a little bit more in depth, but I'm going to let you know right now, 200 lines of code is nothing. Nothing at all. I, myself, me, the guy sitting here with a grass wall behind him, I definitely, clearly, probably did easily over 2,000 lines of code. And that was simply just to make a frumpy little website that was barely functional. So to know that they spent billions of dollars on this project that was supposed to do all of this, and by the way, another one of the criticisms was it didn't do anything. Like they said, this project didn't really do anything at all to circumvent terrorism, to stop it, or to even slow the Taliban down while they were in Afghanistan. So I don't really know what the full theory is or why Nexus 7 is on the list. I don't know if it's because it is another surveillance project, or my own personal theory is that it was almost like a shell of a project. Because if all of these billions of dollars went into it and it went nowhere, and it's not that the people were incompetent, because you straight up have the people that were making the actual project themselves saying that they were not really allowed to make the project what it was supposed to be. So they're wondering, if we're not doing what you said we need to be doing, what is this money actually for? And I think that may be the greater part of what the Nexus 7 conspiracy could be, is that maybe this was literally a shell project while they used the actual money for something that we have yet to uncover, which is even creepier. But that's Nexus 7. There you go. In 1949, Russian geologist Vadim Kolpakov discovered the Patomskiy Crater. It is a rock formation made out of shattered limestone rock that was for some reason just hanging around chilling in the middle of a over-forested area in the woods. It is about 130 feet tall and about 520 feet in circumference. Also, inside of the crater is another smaller structure that is a somewhat dome-like type of rock on the inside of it. It's estimated that the crater is only about 300 to 350 years old. And the weird part is that nobody at all can give a 100% sure answer as to how it got there. One theory, of course, is that it was a meteorite that came down and impacted with the Earth and created the crater. There's two theories about that in itself. One is that whenever the meteorite came down, it made the impact and it just slowly sunk into the crater over time. The other theory is that doesn't make any sense, and this really typically isn't how craters are formed from meteorites, so the likelihood of a meteorite doing it doesn't make sense at all. So the other theory that some scientists have is that it is endogenic. Basically meaning that whatever caused the crater had to be something within the Earth itself or something around the surrounding environment. Nothing from space or anywhere else like that. Some of the locals that are kind of nearby, because it's still isolated, so I guess the nearest people or whatever, claim that the formation has evil powers or evil vibes to it, something like that, claiming that if you step into the center where that dome-like structure is, bad things happen to you. Now, the person I mentioned earlier, Vadim, he actually did trek up the giant mound, and I believe he may have went to the center. I don't know if they said that or not, but he at least went up to the top of it. And I mean, you know, he seemed to live a pretty normal life afterwards. But what is weird is that another expedition group did go up there, and the leader of the expedition group went and stood in the center of it, and on his way down, he died of a heart attack. So, yeah. But to this day, nobody really knows how it got there. And at this point, we've really just been kind of making guesstimates. And a guy did die after the locals warned people don't go to the center of it. And that was actually what they did say. I said bad things earlier, but that's what they alluded to, was that death would follow if you stood into the center of it. And in 2010, a scientific conference was held called the Patomskiy Crater 2010 conference, where they basically tried to discuss and bury the hatchet once and for all of what this thing was. And strangely enough, unanimously, all the scientists agreed it was not a meteorite. I don't know why I said strangely. That's not strange. What's strange is standing in the middle of a rock and then getting a heart attack from it. That's strange. But yeah, they all agreed that whatever it is not from a meteorite impact. But there is still, after all this time, there's not 100% answer of what that thing was, or what it is technically. So it's a rock formation. It looks very weird. And also, they did a few tests afterwards. Let's get into that a little bit. So whether or not you believe this place has evil powers or some kind of voodoo or supernatural magic, it is still some irregularities about the area other than just the structure itself. But for one, I mentioned earlier that the forestation around it is overgrown. That immediately sent off signals to people thinking, oh, well, maybe whatever this is radiation, because for some strange reason in places of high radiation, forestation, plant life, or whatever, trees just tend to just grow at a super fast and unusual pace. And sometimes they're just bigger than they should be. Go figure. I don't know. But that was one of the things they immediately thought. So they checked the area for, large amounts of radiation. Although they did find that the radiation was a little bit above average, it was just barely. It was just fractionally above regular levels. But it wasn't anything crazy jumping off the charts that would make them say, oh my God, this is an actual radiated area. It was just, okay. So that was one thing, right? Another thing is they did say, for whatever reason, still pretty unexplainable, there are seismic events that do occur in that area specifically. So every now and then you may feel some tremors or something along those lines. So I don't know. I guess for me, the only thing I could think is maybe it's just like some kind of weird halfway volcano. I don't know. Like, it's not enough to just erupt, but it's enough to do weird things. I don't really know, because they don't really consider it or classify it as some type of volcano either. They just really consider it a weird big hill. That's about it. A weird big hill. But that is it. We have covered 4 topics. Amazing. Interesting. I love it. So let me know in the comments below, what do you think about the things that I just discussed? It's a lot of weirdo stuff going on out there in the world. For me, a lot of this felt redundant, mostly because, like I said, with the Trilateral Commission, there's also the Bilderberg Group. With Nexus 7, there's also LifeLog and TIA. The Vimana was kind of weird and cool, though. I mean, a flying palace. But it could just be Fata Morgana. Tell me, how do you feel about that? Do you think these people were just seeing mirages? Or do you think maybe they saw some real stuff popping off in the sky? Do you think anything is going on with this weird crater? It is still very coincidental that that guy had a heart attack like as soon as he basically left the site. Weird. And overall, I'm curious, do you think that the Nexus 7 was just a huge project run by incompetent people? that was just literally a money sink? Or do you think that maybe all the pieces to the puzzle aren't there collected yet? Maybe there were ulterior motives. Maybe there was a larger intelligence program going on and they just didn't realize it, and they just kind of put them in this weird little kiddie pool thing. So if the media showed up, they'd be like, yeah, that's them. This is what we're doing. Yeah. Let me know in the comments below. Other than that, if you're still here, I appreciate you. Could you do me a favor though? Could you please like, comment? I want some discussions in here, guys. What do you think about some of these weird theories? Do you got any other things? Did I miss anything? Let me know below. And if you could share it, that'd be fantastical. But other than that, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Hope you have a great day, and I'm out.